On the day I married Travis Reid, I realized I had targeted the wrong person in my strategy. At this moment, he was being pinned down in the dressing room by his childhood sweetheart. "Travis, how about eloping with me?" Travis's eyes darkened, he grabbed her waist and said with reddened eyes, "Beg me." Outside the dressing room, the system's voice was miserable. "Host, we targeted the wrong person. Your target should be his good friend, Alwyn. There's only an hour left for the mission." So, before Travis eloped, I ran away first. And I forcibly kissed his friend next door. "If I say I like you, and being with your brother is just friendship, would you believe me?" Alwyn wiped the blood from his lips and sneered, "You tease, are you addicted to playing with people's feelings?" Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. I targeted the wrong person for my strategy. I found out about this when I was about to marry Travis Reid. In the dressing room, a girl was wearing my wedding dress, coquettishly asking, "Travis, do I look good in her wedding dress?" Travis Reid's voice was hoarse, ugly. "If it's ugly, why do you still like it so much, ah?" Her voice was shattered. Today, Travis Reid and I were getting married. His childhood sweetheart, Isa Brown, rushed back from abroad overnight upon hearing the news. Now, she was nestled in Travis's arms, intending to steal the wedding. I felt a chill all over. Once the wedding was called off, I would be obliterated by the system for failing the mission. Inside the room, Isa Brown was panting and triumphant. "See, you still love me." Travis's face was calm, but his actions didn't stop. "Don't flatter yourself." Isa burst into tears. "Travis, don't marry that lapdog. How about eloping with me? Beg me. Please, I'm begging you." Travis kissed her. My heart ached so much I couldn't breathe. I was about to push the door open. The system, which had been silent for a long time, suddenly screamed, "Ah!" I was startled. The system's voice was panicked. "Host, stop crying. You targeted the wrong person. The mission time is about to end." I was thunderstruck. "What? I targeted the wrong person?" The system tearfully said, "Yes, your target is Travis Reid's good friend Alwyn. There's only 1 hour left for the mission." My legs were shaking, and my vision went black. I almost fainted. For the past 6 months, I had diligently played the role of a lapdog. Hardworking and obedient, always on call. Just to marry Travis Reid. And now you're telling me I targeted the wrong person? With only 1 hour left, where could I find Alwyn to marry? I might as well wait for death. What should I do then? My heart felt like ashes. The system's voice was weak. "Kissing can extend the mission time. The higher your intimacy level, the longer the extension. I suggest you go and forcibly kiss Alwyn first." I immediately regained my vitality, holding up my dress with determination. Where should I kiss him? At the wedding venue. A few minutes later, at the wedding venue, stood a pair of newlyweds who looked good but felt distant. My tears were brimming in my eyes. After all, if I couldn't kiss Alwyn, I would die. Travis was still indifferent towards me. "Millie, you're about to marry me, are you excited?" He seemed to be looking forward to the drama of me crying when he called off the wedding. But I had no time to deal with him, because the system's anxious voice was occupying my mind. "Host! Alwyn is about to reach the door, countdown 10, 9, 8. I slowly lifted my dress, bending slightly, ready to sprint. The priest asked enthusiastically, "May I ask, do the two of you wish to grow old together and stay together forever?" Isa Brown, sitting in the audience, was so excited her face turned red. Travis picked up the microphone, the corners of his lips slightly curved. "I don't. He's here, host, go." In front of everyone's eyes, I grimaced and leaped up. Like a cannonball, I shot out of the hall in a flash. Everyone's mouths dropped open. With a bang, the door was flung open, and I grabbed a man, disappearing into the white light, leaving Travis and the priest dumbfounded on stage. A long time passed. The priest's voice changed as he turned to ask Travis uncertainly, "The bride, just now, she ran away, right?" In an old storage room, Alwyn lazily leaned against the wall. His clothes were disheveled. He exuded a beauty that seemed to have been ravaged. "Have you kissed enough?" Brock's tone was lazy, lacking any enthusiasm. It seemed like he didn't care even if he had been taken advantage of. The system panted heavily. Congratulations, host. The forced kiss was successful, granting you an additional half-hour of survival time. If you could sleep with him, it would be even better. Sleeping with him once could extend the mission time by several days. A kiss only earned an extra half-hour. No wonder it's Brock Alwyn. He was notoriously difficult to handle. As the youngest heir of the Alwyn family, Brock had a capricious and sinister nature. People avoided him whenever they saw him. Who would dare to seduce him? The system's face was twisted with determination, gritting its teeth as it produced a book titled The Crazy Boss Always Wants to Sleep with Me. Host, trust me, if you follow the plot of this novel, you'll definitely win him over. A few minutes later, I was sitting on Brock's lap, wearing a red, high-slit dress, my face flushed. The fair skin of my legs and Brock's black suit pants formed a sharp contrast. The system whispered softly, "This book is quite perverted." Sorry for the trouble, host. It's not trouble, it's fate. I pinched my thigh, tears welling up in my eyes. Brock, if I say I like you, and being with your friend is just friendship, would you believe me? The bright spring sunlight shone on my fair skin. Brock squinted slightly, his gaze darkening. You tease, are you addicted to playing with people's feelings? His cold voice made my legs go weak. Suddenly, Travis's gloomy voice came from outside the window. Search for Millie Hall. Break her legs if you find her. Brock lowered his head, mocking as he looked at the wedding dress on me torn into a mess. Little girl, come over here. The system suddenly reminded me, host. You can't let Travis Reid see you cheating, or your survival time will be deducted. I was startled and was about to get up to lock the door. Brock suddenly grabbed my waist and pulled me closer. The fresh scent of mint quickly filled my mind. He was so clean, spotless. Brock's hand traced my waistline, giving it a light twist. I couldn't hold back and let out a gasp. Immediately, the window opened. Bright spring light poured in. A coat rack blocked Brock's upper body. Travis saw me, who couldn't hide in time, cheeks flushed, straddling a pair of long legs in black suit pants, looking panicked. The system wailed, survival time is about to run out. Countdown 10, 9. Ah, host, stop kissing him. Sleep with him. Sleeping with him is faster. I fumbled to unbuckle Brock's belt. The next second, Travis's roar echoed through the yard. Millie Hall, stop that right now. If I let you and this bastard walk out of here intact today, I'll take your last name. Brock remained extremely calm, stroking my head. Put your hands behind your back. Huh? It seemed like quite a few friends and relatives had arrived outside the window. Brock removed his tie and tied my wrists together. He revealed a gentle smile. Didn't you want to sleep with me? How can you sleep with me in front of others if you're not strong enough? Wait. Were all these people called here by him? The survival time I had just earned was rapidly decreasing. With my hands tied, I was so anxious that I started crying. Untie me. Otherwise, I can't sleep with you. Brock's leisurely demeanor instantly vanished. He raised an eyebrow slightly, his lips curling coldly. Do you really want to sleep with me? Of course I do. Under the threat of death, I went limp, trembling as I fell into Brock's arms. I cried out loud. This was probably the first time Brock had seen someone cry because she couldn't sleep with him. More and more onlookers gathered outside the window. A black coat was thrown over my head. It covered my entire body before the crowd arrived. The countdown stopped. Brock smirked coldly. Why are you acting like you have a terminal illness, Millie Hall? Oh, you are so pathetic. Just before Travis was about to break in, Brock picked me up, carried me through the layers of clothing racks from the back door, and got into his car. In the car, I was still in shock, crying uncontrollably. Brock had a stern face. Why are you crying? Just because you couldn't sleep with me? I nodded vigorously, clinging to him like an octopus, silently counting the slowly increasing survival time. Brock's expression was cold and disdainful as he gazed out the window, lost in thought. The car slowly drove into the villa area. Get out, Brock ordered me. Aren't you getting out? I still have work. What? No way. The system screamed frantically. Host, kiss him a few more times. I don't want to die. I carefully leaned closer. Can I kiss you? Brock stared at my tear-stained eyelashes for a long moment, then grabbed my chin, allowing me to kiss him recklessly. His lips were very cold. The rough pads of his fingers lightly touched my neck, bringing an indescribable thrill. It felt so good. Suddenly, someone knocked on the car window. I opened my eyes to see Travis's big face pressed against the car window, and screamed in fright, almost having a heart attack. "You silly host, be careful not to break your character." I covered my mouth and quickly crouched under Brock's legs. Looking up, I begged him with pleading eyes. Fortunately, Travis couldn't see into the car. He just kept knocking and talking. "Buddy, do me a favor." Brock glanced down at me, pressing my head lower. "Good girl, a little lower, so he can't see you." Due to this unspeakable position, Brock's mint scent became even stronger. The car window was lowered a crack. Brock looked out coldly and asked, "What's up?" Millie Hall ran away from the wedding. Brock's eyebrows raised slightly, his expression subtle. "Oh, then she really is courting death." Travis frowned irritably. "Do me a favor," a man carried her out through the back door. "I remember your people are stationed there. They must have seen something. Help me find out who that man is, and I'll make sure he pays dearly." In my nervousness, I accidentally bumped into a certain area. Brock hissed, squinting his eyes and looking down at me. "Sweetheart, do you want to make sure I pay dearly either?" I covered my mouth, not daring to make a sound. Travis, on the other hand, peered through the crack, seemingly stunned. "Where'd you get this young girl?" "She's quite flexible. Just started dating her. She likes to bite." Travis squinted, almost pressing his head inside. "So young, why not introduce her to me?" As he spoke, he tried to open the car door. The driver immediately locked it. Brock smiled and said, "She's timid, might get scared. Next time." With that, under Travis's ambiguous gaze, Brock rolled up the window and lifted my face. He noticed that my lipstick had smudged all over his pants. He patiently wiped off the smeared lipstick for me. "What to do? Your ex-husband is starting to take an interest in you again. So, I have no choice but to hide you away. Brock Alwyn is a pervert." I lay on Brock's large bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. This pervert locked me in the villa and then left. Instead, his secretary sent a bunch of daily necessities. Silk nightgowns and branded shoes and bags filled the walk-in closet. The system found my predicament amusing. Host, he really knows how to keep a mistress in style. But do I lack money? I lack him. But Brock had some strange idea, keeping me at arm's length, visible but untouchable. As my survival time was about to run out, I was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. "Host, why don't you jump out of the window and run? Brock Alwyn is attending a banquet not far away. You can still make it if you leave now." So I really ran. The villa's security system went crazy with alarms. The next second, I received a call from Brock. When I answered, I heard his cool laughter. "Darling, is this your sincerity? You better pray I don't catch you." I irritably hung up the phone. Staring at the digital display above, showing only 10 minutes left, I sped up. The banquet hall was bustling with noise. As I looked around the crowd, someone grabbed my hair and slammed me against the wall. Pain shot from the back of my head down to my tailbone. I gritted my teeth in pain. "Millie, where have you been these past few days?" Travis appeared behind me, his face dark. I instantly held my breath, my whole body tensed. I whispered, "Travis, let me go first." "Let you go? So you can frolic with that adulterer?" He pulled my hair harder, viciously. "Tell me honestly, who is that man? So I can teach him a lesson. Not every piece of trash can be picked up." I almost forgot, Travis Reid is an annoying lunatic. When Isa Brown ignored him, Travis used me as a stand-in, forcing me to lose weight desperately. No matter how tall I was, I had to slim down like Isa, frail and fragile. When Isa spoke to him, he found me annoying and forced me to gain weight, making sure I didn't resemble her. After half a year of this back and forth, I developed stomach problems. My health was never good. "System, can I call him an idiot?" The system regretfully said, "Your character is a two-faced girl, you can't go out of character." I was being strangled to the point of suffocation when Isa appeared out of nowhere. She covered her mouth in surprise, her eyes instantly turning red. "Travis, why are you letting her dirty hands touch you?" Travis turned sharply, panic flashing in his eyes when he saw Isa. "Isa, it's not what you think." "You liar." Isa's voice carried a sob. Don't touch me, you've been touched by her, so dirty, you're dirty. Taking advantage of this moment, I broke free from Travis and turned to run out of the corridor. Isa suddenly tripped me, causing me to lose balance and fall over a beer bottle, hitting the ground hard. My palms were instantly cut by glass shards. Isa kept crying. Travis held her and kicked me. Hey, you made my darling angry, apologize to her. I gritted my teeth, staring at the countdown with only 10 minutes left. The desire to survive made me crawl forward desperately. A malicious glint flashed in Isa's eyes, and she aimed her sharp high heel at my hand. In desperation, I grabbed a glass shard and stabbed her ankle hard. Her piercing scream drowned out the noise. Suddenly, a cold prompt sounded in my ear. Attacking an NPC, 5 minutes of survival time will be deducted. It was the judge who managed all systems, and its verdicts were absolutely authoritative. The survival time above my head started counting down. The system exclaimed, "Host, you need to find Brock Alwyn quickly." I gritted my teeth, got up, pushed open the door, and ran out. I immediately saw Brock slowly walking towards me, surrounded by people. "Host, lure Brock Alwyn to a place where Travis can't see. Sleep with him." I thought the same. I saw Brock say something to someone, then he started walking towards me. My face turned pale, my heart raced, and I ran along the corridor, looking for the best place to act. Brock's lazy voice came from behind. "Millie, don't tell me you escaped just to make yourself all bruised and battered." His long legs covered more ground than mine, leisurely following behind. Like a beast letting its prey run. The countdown in my ear pounded on my fragile nerves like a great bell. Seeing me run faster, Brock's voice turned cold. "Run faster if you can, but you know the consequences if I catch you." At a certain corner, I saw an open reception room. The countdown above my head was nearing its end. I suddenly turned around, pulling Brock inside before he could react. I fiercely pushed him onto the sofa and started kissing him madly. The time that was about to run out began to slowly increase. Brock's whole body stiffened, the cold hostility in his eyes gradually turned to confusion. His lips were occupied by mine, rendering him speechless. His large hand slid over my back, grabbed my collar, and gently pulled, separating me from him. His stern face was full of gloom. "Millie Hall, stop. Don't talk. Let me kiss you." Like a starving ghost, I pounced back, biting and ravaging him without restraint. The fresh scent mixed with rich wine aroma made me intoxicated, unable to extricate myself. But it wasn't enough. The survival time was still not enough. Panting, my head dizzy, I grabbed Brock's tie and said, "Brock, let's sleep together. Right now." It turns out, in the face of death, humans completely lose their reason. So much so that I didn't notice there were actually people present. And quite a few. "Why you let go of our chairman?" A trembling voice came from behind. I turned around to see dozens of eyes staring at my hands unbuckling Brock's belt. Their expressions were silent. "Can someone tell me where this group of middle-aged men came from?" Brock suddenly laughed unkindly. "Congratulations, you just said in front of my company's subordinates that you want to sleep with me." Brock once again looked like he had been ravaged. My lipstick was imprinted on his thin lips, and his tie and shirt were wrinkled. His expression was listless, looking like a good man who had been bullied. The board members felt even more distressed upon seeing this and slammed the table in anger. They were all in tears and sniffling. "How dare you sleep with him? His health is poor. What if something happens to him?" Brock sneered. "Yeah, you just charged at me like a little calf, almost taking my life. This pervert, he's enjoying the show again." My long-restrained emotions suddenly burst out. Faced with the pointing fingers around me, I buried my head into Brock's chest. When I looked up again, my eyes were red. "Brock, I just love you so much, is that wrong? Why do they have to humiliate me like this?" Brock's expression stiffened, and his handsome features gradually darkened. "Get out." I cursed inwardly and was about to get up when Brock wrapped his arm around my waist. "I meant them. Get out." The board members acted as if facing a formidable enemy. "No, you can't. You have a heart condition, you can't be too intense. Get lost." For the first time, Brock's face showed a sinister and crazed look. The group left reluctantly, turning back every 3 steps. Before leaving, they thoughtfully shut the door for us. But Brock actually has a heart condition, no wonder he always looks sickly and can't take much. Brock raised his hand and wiped the tears from my face. "Don't like playing in front of others? Am I that kind of casual person? When did he get this misconception? Maybe my gaze was too resentful. Brock pursed his lips. Forget it, I thought you were braver. After saying this, his long fingers began to unbutton his shirt one by one. His smooth collarbone gradually appeared. It made my blood surge. Seeing me staring at him blankly, Brock lifted the corner of his mouth. Didn't you want to sleep with me? This is your chance. The skin under my fingers suddenly became hot and scorching. Brock, like a seductive male fox, lazily stared at me. His knuckles, under the bright light, even had a pinkish hue. I felt a bit shy. For a moment, I didn't know where to start. His fingers touched my collarbone, then slowly slid into my soft hair and gripped it. A dark, dangerous desire appeared in his eyes. Good girl, come here. My whole body went soft, and my voice trembled. Can you turn off the light? No. Just like this, watching you cry. It's more thrilling. An hour later, I staggered out of the conference room with wobbly steps and vacant eyes. My legs almost gave out, and I nearly kneeled on the ground. The system was satisfied and smacked its lips. Host, this time you gained an extra half-month of survival time. Brock Alwyn is really something. Yeah, I almost died. Brock, that beast in human clothing, followed me out. His hands in his pockets, he bent down slowly to my ear and said with a smile, "The back of your skirt is dirty, remember to change it when you get back." I blushed deeply. Then, a pair of hands appeared on my waist. Brock tied his jacket around my waist and patted my butt. Go on, have fun. I stood still. Brock laughed again. What? Can't bear to leave me? I took a deep breath and suddenly turned around. Brock, can you stay with me all night? Brock's dark eyes stared at me for a long time, then he suddenly smiled. Sure. I tugged on his tie, lowered my body, and gave him a light kiss. Wait for me here, okay? After saying this, I turned and walked confidently towards the banquet hall. The system was puzzled. Host, what are you going to do? I gave a sinister smile. Of course, I'm going to deal with those two idiots. Half a month of survival time. How could I not use some of it for revenge? The atmosphere at the banquet was just right. Isa Brown nestled in Travis Reid's arms, tears streaming down her face as she sat on the windowsill in the corner. Her fair feet were held by Travis. Ah, don't do this. Don't do what? Travis smirked, using the pretext of applying medicine to caress and play with her. You were just jealous for me, and now you're pretending to be all innocent? Isa gave him a shy and angry glance. I'm a clean freak. That woman is so promiscuous, so dirty. Don't worry, I'll have Brock catch her later and avenge you. Make sure to pierce her filthy hands and strip her clothes off. Travis chuckled lowly. You're so bad. Don't you love me being bad? I calmly walked past the waiter, casually grabbing a bottle of red wine from the tray. I walked behind Travis. Raised my hand. A crisp, clear sound. Red wine flowed down the back of Travis's head. The scarlet liquid splattered onto Isa's fair and delicate face. Both of them were stunned. The judge appeared again. Severe warning, host harms NPC, deducting 5 minutes of survival time. A high-pitched siren sounded in my mind. So, this only deducts 5 minutes, huh? I wiped the liquid off my face and grabbed another bottle of wine. Everyone's attention was drawn to the scene. Isa's face turned pale. Millie Hall, you don't. Smash! The second bottle of red wine shattered over Isa's head. Severe warning. 10 hours of survival time deducted. I laughed. Sorry, I am fair, you should have a bottle too. Travis's face darkened, ready to grab my hair. Unfortunately, I knew his habits too well. The next moment, I kneed him in the groin. Travis groaned, clutching himself, and knelt down in pain. The system weakly pleaded, Host, please stop. Violating the judge's orders will have severe consequences. Everyone stared dumbfounded at the scene before them, completely shocked. Isa lost control of her emotions. Where's the security? Get her out of here. Don't let this filthy woman stay with us. I expressionlessly grabbed her hair, dragging her to the long table. In front of everyone, I pressed her face into the cake. Beep. Beep. Warning. 3 days of survival time deducted. Isa loved eating mangosteen. Travis forced me to imitate her and eat 20 pounds in one day, making me nauseous at the sight of it now. I lifted Isa's head and shoved it into the mangosteen, the drink barrel, the bread pile. The alarms in my mind blared continuously. Deducting 4. Deducting 1 day. Deduct. Beep. System crashed. All the grievances I had suffered suddenly poured out. Travis staggered up, grabbed me, and fiercely threw me into the cake. A sharp fork brushed past my eye, leaving a scratch. Blood trickled down. Travis held the trembling Isa. "Millie Hall, if you dare touch her, I'll kill you." The countdown in my mind suddenly turned a dangerous red, signaling that my survival time was running out. I should go find Brock. But at this moment, I didn't want to move. Wiping away my tears, I seriously considered whether it was better to live or to die with Travis and Isa. Ding dong! The system came back online. Detected an increase in the target's favorability, survival time increased by 5 days, 10 days, an increase, beep, system crashed. The red turned to healthy green. I shakily propped myself up on the table and met Brock's eyes, who was leaning against the door, watching the show. He was at it again. Seeing me in such a sorry state, he actually started to like me? Brock lazily walked through the crowd towards me. People automatically stepped aside. Travis, holding Isa, looked at Brock. "Brock, this is your place, so help me kill someone. I want to see this woman ruined." "Name your price." Brock glanced at him. "That depends on who offers the higher price, you or her." Travis glared at me as if I were a disgusting maggot. "Half of my company's shares, is that enough?" I felt a chill all over. Brock was, after all, a businessman. The system was down. I couldn't see how much Brock liked me. Probably, not much. Brock raised an eyebrow, seemingly interested. Then, he walked up to me, smiling as he asked, "What's your offer?" I said nothing, not even looking at him. I had nothing left, just a pathetic life. But if he dared to kill me, I'd take him down with me. Brock bent down, leaned close to my ear, and whispered with a smile, "If you obediently kiss me, I'll make sure Travis gets ruined, okay?" My mind went blank, and I looked up in confusion. What? Brock's eyes told me he was really expecting my kiss. His black pupils reflected my dirty face. At that moment, I suddenly understood Brock's twisted sense of humor. Turns out, he didn't like innocent girls. He liked bad women. I smiled brightly, "All right." Then, under Travis's furious gaze, I stood on tiptoe and lightly kissed Brock's lips. This time, for some reason, there was no sound of the system deducting survival time. I wrapped my arms around Brock's neck, kissing him wantonly, until the air in my lungs was exhausted. Travis's expression was blank. "You too." Brock wiped his lips, still unsatisfied. "What?" "I'm kissing my girlfriend. Do you have a problem with that?" Travis seemed to realize something. His face turned beet red. "So it was you that day." "Brock Alwyn. We're like brothers." Brock laughed, holding me, and softly said a few words, "Screw you." Travis's face turned ashen, and he pushed Isa forward in a flattering manner. "Brock, I was wrong, it was all her idea." Isa screamed and fainted. That day, Isa was carried out. In a room at the banquet, Travis's screams echoed endlessly. The next day, I was woken up by the system. As soon as I opened my eyes, I heard bad news. "Host, the judge has changed the rules." "What rules?" "Getting married alone doesn't count as successfully completing the strategy. His favorability must also reach 100%. In other words, marriage and 100% favorability is required to complete the mission." I let out a long breath. "Hey, what does that matter? We're already so close, how could his favorability be low?" My words got stuck in my throat. The system displayed, Brock's favorability 59%, assessment, failing. I sat up in a hurry, fuming, despicable man. The system suddenly changed its tone. "However, because you made a big scene just now, the judge has made a compromise. If you get intimate with Brock Alwyn in front of Travis Reid, your survival time won't be reset. Your current remaining survival time is half an hour. Host, keep it up." Recently, there have been rumors outside that Brock is keeping a mistress. Spoiled beyond belief. She often barges in front of everyone, forcefully kisses Brock, and leaves right after, leaving Brock to clean up the mess with a dark face. What's the use of being jealous? No matter how shameless that woman is, Mr. Alwyn is still willing to spoil her. I heard it's making the old folks at Alwyn Corporation furious. As soon as I reached the entrance of Brock's company, I heard someone talking about me. Upon closer look, it turned out to be Isa Brown. Her neck brace hadn't been removed yet, and she was already stirring up trouble. I didn't even blink as I walked straight past her. The system cursed furiously, "Bad woman." Isa's expression stiffened, a hint of surprise flashing across her face as she stared at my back, lost in thought. In the office, Brock was in a meeting. I pushed open the meeting room door and humbly greeted the shareholders present, sorry to interrupt. Brock tossed his pen aside, pinched the bridge of his nose, and resignedly got up, meeting adjourned. He said, following me to a nearby cubicle. I couldn't wait to kiss him. Through my relentless efforts, Brock's favorability had reached the passing mark. After being ravaged by me, he lazily looked down at me. "Millie, do you have?" "I have a condition," I said confidently. "I have a lovesickness that will cause me to die of heartache if I can't kiss you." Brock clearly didn't believe my nonsense. He tugged at the corner of his lips. "Get out." I suddenly thought of something and pulled out a blood pressure monitor and defibrillator, shouting, "Wait, I've been learning some emergency rescue skills these days." Brock looked disinterested. "Why are you learning that?" "I'm afraid something might happen to you." "Don't you have a heart condition?" Brock, hands in his pockets, lazily walked back to the office. I hurriedly followed, holding my stuff, muttering, "You must live a long life." Brock suddenly stopped, causing me to bump into his back unprepared. His expression turned cold, and he squinted at me. "You want me to live longer?" "Of course, what good person would hope others die quickly?" I rubbed my nose. "Besides, I love you so much." The system prompted, "Host, Brock Alwyn's favorability is deducted by 1%. He fool. Favorability deducted 1%. Wait, can he hear me cursing him? Favorability deducted 1%. Seeing me staring at him in shock, Brock gave a lukewarm smile. "Mind your own business." As he turned his back, the system prompted. Brock Alwyn's favorability added 20%, current 82%. In the following days, I was like a person injected with adrenaline. I spent every day in Brock's office learning rescue skills. Brock looked at the dummy on the office floor, its chest sunken from my compressions, and pinched the bridge of his nose. He sighed wearily. "Millie, come here." "What's up?" I said with a face full of joy. "Can I kiss you now?" Brock's eyelid twitched, and he grabbed my collar, dragging me over. "This condition, I've had it since birth." "I know, heart conditions can be congenital or acquired. Yours is congenital. There are 4 types, tetralogy of Fallot." "Shut up." Brock impatiently interrupted me. "My point is, there's no need for you to learn those emergency skills." I blinked, staring at him seriously. "It's very necessary. Living one more day is a gain." "What's so good about living?" I was stunned for a moment, then loudly accused with confidence. "You didn't say that last night. You said life should be enjoyed to the fullest. You said you liked it, it felt good, you were happy. You even said you wanted to." Brock suddenly pinched my lips together, like squeezing a duck. His face turned completely dark. "Shut up." I struggled, making Brock laugh. He put a hat on my head, covering my eyes, and pushed me away. "Go play, don't shout nonsense." The glow of the sunset fell on Brock's tall, thin figure, looking a bit lonely. After a while, the system dinged. It indicated Brock's favorability had broken through 95%. Victory was in sight. Brock's calm, lazy voice came. "This condition, I've had it since birth. How long I live depends on fate. Millie, if I die, take my money and live happily." Hearing these words, my heart felt like something tugged at it. I half-jokingly tested, "That's not legal." "Then find a legal way. Then we can only get married." "Okay." I was confused, took off the hat, and my heart started pounding. "Are you agreeing or not?" Brock, bathed in the twilight, crossed his arms and looked at me. "Try proposing, and you'll know if I agree or not. Marriage and 100% favorability means successful strategy." I held my breath, as if seeing the end of this game. After a brief silence, I still asked the question, "Brock Alwyn, would you marry me?" Brock's deep pupils reflected my image and the broken golden light of the sunset. For some reason, the aura of death around him grew stronger. Sure. Brock said carelessly, smiling. I agree. Host, you must keep this secret. You married him just to win him over. You will eventually return to your own world. Otherwise, given how much he likes you now, if he goes crazy and plays a captivity game with you, what will you do? I was wearing a wedding dress, staring at myself in the mirror inside the fitting room. My face was full of sorrow. Because Brock's affection level had already reached 100%. Only the wedding was left. Today, Brock had some business at his company and couldn't come, so I came to try on the wedding dress by myself. My smile stiffened slightly. Absent-mindedly, I said, "Don't worry, Millie Hall, always do things with propriety." In fact, the wedding dress, the bouquet, and the invitations had all been personally reviewed by Brock. Although he didn't show it on his face, he put his heart into every detail. Late that night, when I got up to drink water, I saw that the light in the living room was still on. Brock was asleep at the coffee table. Scattered under the coffee table were half-written wedding invitations. The bold and powerful handwriting was vigorous and flowing. Who knows how long he had been writing? On his ring finger, he wore the aluminum alloy ring I gave him. That was clearly just a toy. My heart suddenly felt like it was stabbed by a needle. Brock's house, car, and all his assets were already signed over to me by agreement. He said his health was not good, and if he were to pass away one day, these things would be my support. System, if I leave, will Brock die? The system said, actually, he is just a string of code. Host, you don't need to care too much. I held his hand, the warmth in my palm was so real. I found it hard to believe that he was just a cold string of code. Brock moved slightly, slowly opened his eyes, and his gaze was clear. Millie, you've been staring at me for so long. Shouldn't you do something to me? I was stunned. You weren't asleep? No. I just wanted to see how long you could stare at me. Brock got up, pressed me onto the sofa, and kissed my hair, ears, and palms wantonly. He dragged me into a blaze, burning me repeatedly, turning me into a soft, liquid state. In a daze, I hugged Brock and asked, Brock, do you love me? Brock's actions were unexpectedly fierce. Millie, I want to possess you. The wedding day was getting closer and closer, and my mood was getting lower and lower. The system told me that I actually had a choice. After successfully winning him over, it would present me with a choice window, and as long as I clicked no, I could stay in this world. It was a very difficult decision to make. Miss Hall, do you like this makeup? The makeup artist's words pulled my thoughts back. Today was the pre-wedding makeup trial, and Brock was going to be late. When I went outside to look in the mirror, I was suddenly blocked by someone. I didn't expect you to get married again so soon. Travis stared at my face, somewhat greedily. I really should have seen your fickle nature earlier. The system was a bit nervous. Host, stay away from him. Don't let anything go wrong before the wedding, or you won't be able to go back. I slowly took a few steps back. Travis squinted his eyes. Millie, did you ever like me? No. Travis wasn't in a hurry, so, why did you chase me for half a year, begging to marry me? Because I'm vain, isn't that enough? Aren't you afraid I'll tell Brock this? The system was laughing. Big fool, does he really think that saying vain can make Brock call off the wedding? He underestimates Brock's affection for you. Travis seemed to have suddenly grasped some evidence, his laughter growing louder. His eyes couldn't hide the contempt he felt for me. I'll make you kneel and beg me again. Millie Hall, you will be my most obedient dog. Travis's expression turned sinister. Since that incident last time, he had gone mad. I covered my mouth. Okay, you must definitely regain your strength. Although, who knows, after being played by men, if you can still. Before this volcano erupted, I quickly slipped away. On the wedding day, I woke up very early. Looking at myself in the mirror wearing the wedding dress, I felt a bit dazed. Brock seemed to be sick these past few days. I hadn't seen him at all. Every time I called, he would say a few words and then hang up. The system advised me, anyway, you're leaving soon. As long as Brock Alwyn doesn't call off the wedding, our mission is complete. Host, today is a good day for you to go home, cheer up. The wedding dress Brock prepared was adorned with diamonds, dazzlingly bright. Before the wedding, the bride and groom are not supposed to meet. Brock laughed over the phone. Usually, you're sweet as honey, but now that you've caught me, you're not sweet anymore, huh? I murmured in a low voice, I love you the most. Brock patiently advised, the venue is dark, the dress is heavy, watch your step. Okay. Even if you're in a hurry, don't fall, let me have a good look at you. He didn't know that this would be the last time he saw me. I suddenly felt a bit reluctant. Host, you need to think clearly. Once you make a decision, it cannot be changed. I took a deep breath. In my original world, I have no family left. Actually, living in a different place doesn't seem so bad. The system respected my decision. When the pop-up window appears later, just click no. Host, be happy. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door. Under the blinding flashlights, Brock stood at the end of the aisle. At this moment, it seemed like my world only had him. He looked over, and his calm eyes showed a slight ripple. I was just about to lift my dress and walk towards him. Suddenly, the screen cut to an audio clip. The video that was supposed to play pre-wedding highlights suddenly had the system's familiar voice. Host, stay away from him. Don't mess up before the wedding, or you won't be able to go back. Big fool, do you really think the words vain can make Brock Alwyn call off the wedding? He underestimates Brock Alwyn's feelings for you, doesn't he? Anyway, you're leaving soon. As long as Brock Alwyn doesn't call off the wedding, our mission is complete. Host, today is a good day for you to go home, cheer up. My mind went blank. Why? Why is this happening? The system's voice was trembling. Host, I don't know what's happening either. Could there be a bug? Isa Brown, sitting in the audience, laughed and said, I don't know what's going on, but I suddenly seem to be able to hear your system talking. Millie Hall, you really are wicked. You stole Travis and now you want to seduce Brock. Travis stood up from the crowd and walked towards Brock on the stage. In front of many guests, he spoke, Brock, we've all been deceived by this woman. Back then, she wouldn't fight back or talk back. I tormented her to death, and she still wanted to marry me. Before the wedding, she realized she had the wrong target and turned to you. Now, she wants to rely on your affection to go home. Brock, from the beginning to the end, she has never had feelings for you. The light was too strong. I felt Brock look at me. His eyes were dead. My secret could no longer be hidden. With a sour nose, I lifted my dress and tried to move forward. Due to the heavy wedding dress, I fell on the steps. A prompt sounded overhead. Brock's affection was decreasing. The survival time that had disappeared reappeared. A 10-minute countdown. Is that so? Is it true? Brock's voice was very light, gradually approaching me from a distance. My eyes were red. It's not true, Brock, I really love you. I wanted to explain more, but with each word, Brock's affection decreased. The feeling of death returned. Travis's face was twisted with excitement. Brock, I don't mind sharing this woman with you. A failed task executor, isn't she just for us to play with as we want? The overhead light was finally blocked. Brock squatted in front of me. He lowered his head. In the depths of his eyes, which were like dead water, there was a barely discernible gentleness. I was stunned. Brock calmly stroked my hair, just like many late nights. He said, I always knew she was trying to win me over. Travis and Isa's smiles suddenly froze on their faces. Brock turned his head, looking at the man causing havoc before him, and revealed a sinister, crazed smile. Travis Reid, have you lost your mind? How dare you ruin my wedding? At that moment, all the blood in my body was completely frozen. I stared at Brock in disbelief. I saw several strong men jump out from the corner, dragging the terrified Travis towards the small dark room. Brock, you can't do this to me. Ah, don't touch me, please. Travis's screams were cut off outside the door. Isa was dumbfounded. No, it's impossible. Brock, you must be crazy, you've been bewitched by that girl. You'll die at her hands sooner or later. Brock glanced at her coldly, his eyes full of disgust. Isa fainted again from fright. I stared blankly at Brock. You knew I would leave today? I knew. Brock patiently brushed the dust off me, looking exceptionally calm. Your system should have a small problem. My affection for you should be at 100%. You don't need to worry about the time resetting. Only then did I notice that Brock's lips were somewhat purple. There wasn't much color on his face. Brock, are you feeling unwell? I hurriedly got up and pressed my ear to his chest. Hearing the erratic heartbeat, I panicked. I'll take you to the hospital. Brock knelt there, bending over to hug me. Since I was born, a voice has told me that my existence is to be conquered by someone. If it weren't for the system error, your initial target should have been me. I looked up at Brock's face in disbelief. Suddenly, I understood where the long-standing sense of indifference and world-weariness around him came from. He had long accepted his predetermined fate, waiting to be conquered, and then abandoned. What kind of malicious system would destroy all hope at the very beginning of a person's life? My voice was hoarse. Brock, if I leave, what will your ending be? Brock lowered his head and quietly said, heart attack, death. You knew it. Tears streamed down uncontrollably, my voice choked. You knew it would be like this. Why did you still fall in love with me? If we don't get married, I can't leave, I can always stay with you. But I fell in love with you, what should I do? Brock gently caressed my cheek and smiled. Such a cruel conqueror, a conqueror who takes lives. His fingertips started to feel abnormally cold. His heart was slowly stopping. Brock lightly hugged me. Even his breathing became heavy. I tightly held Brock's hand, panicking. It's okay, I can choose. I have no family in that world, I won't go back. A window suddenly popped up before my eyes. Time detachment countdown 10. This time, there was no choice. I panicked. System, why don't I have an option? The system panicked too. Something's wrong, who forcibly modified my program? Host, the selection system has failed. You will be forcibly sent away. Brock smiled, there was never an option. Success in the task means detachment, this is the condition I negotiated with the judge. It turned out he had made the choice for me invisibly. The unfamiliar world makes you feel unsafe. You should go back. Countdown 7, 6. I frantically clutched Brock's arm, begging, Brock, don't do this, hate me a little, I won't go, I won't leave. Brock's face was almost transparent. He sighed, how can I hate you? You are my destined fate, my true love in this life. His voice grew fainter. Kneeling on the steps, hugging me, his hands slowly fell. In the last moment, Brock said, so, you must always remember me. Darkness descended. The judge's solemn voice obliterated everything. Congratulations, host, world detachment successful. Welcome home. I was immersed in a haze of darkness, struggling helplessly, like a drowning person, suddenly surfacing in a moment. Awakening from a dream, drenched in sweat. Millie, you had a dream again. My best friend Sadie brought a basin of water and wiped my forehead. Finally, the fever has gone down. You had a high fever of 40 degrees a few days ago and started talking nonsense. I almost took you to the hospital. It's been a month since I returned to the normal world. I had a serious illness and felt groggy every day. I often dreamed of Brock standing alone at the bottom of a dark well, looking up at me. Every day, waking up from the dream, I felt endless heartache and sorrow. I covered my face. The cicadas were chirping outside, and the warm wind rushed in through the window. Sadie was staring at her phone and suddenly became excited. The college is holding an alumni meeting during the summer vacation. Summer vacation? I stared at her blankly. Isn't it the beginning of the semester now? Sadie placed her hand on my forehead. Are you out of your mind? It's mid-July now. Mid-July. I clearly remembered it was just April. The harsh cicadas, the scorching wind, the dazzling sunlight, everything seemed to have changed overnight. The street outside was crowded with students carrying suitcases, heading home. The once withered plants had suddenly become lush. Why is this happening? It was as if the timeline had suddenly gone awry. Sadie said cheerfully. Apparently, a big shot is coming this year. What's his name again? Oh, Brock Alwyn. I slowly turned my head, staring at her. Brock Alwyn? She compared the names on the list, mumbling. He's said to have been in poor health and was recuperating abroad. He recently recovered and returned to the country to attend the alumni meeting. He was the top graduate on the list. You should have seen him before. Before she finished speaking, I was already getting dressed. Millie, where are you going? To the alumni meeting. Hey, you're still sick, take it easy. I rushed to the school auditorium. What senior Brock, what alumni meeting, I was sure these things had never existed before I crossed into another world. What a mess! I suddenly stopped. On the original Excellent Graduates Bulletin board, the original first place had inexplicably moved down one position. In the vacant spot, a new name appeared. Brock Alwyn. The familiar and deep features in the photo were smiling slightly, looking at me. At that moment, a familiar voice suddenly entered my ears. "Hello everyone, I am your senior, Brock Alwyn." In the spacious auditorium, that familiar figure was bathed in light. Lazily, casually leaning on the podium. The white shirt was translucent. The man held a microphone, wearing an aluminum alloy ring on his ring finger, gently tapping the table. The sound transmitted through the microphone, coming from the speaker, making a tapping sound. At that moment, Brock gently raised his eyes to look at me. The bright sunlight shone on his face, highlighting his features in the most captivating way. "Hello everyone, long time no see." That day, I sat in the audience, listening to his speech, tears streaming down my face. He abruptly reappeared in my world, both illusory and real. After the alumni meeting ended, he bid farewell to the audience and walked down the side stairs, coming to me. He raised his hand to wipe away the tears on my cheeks. "I know I'm charming, but you don't have to stare at me like that." My voice trembled. "How did you? You want to ask how a string of code appeared in your world, right? As long as I want to, I can do it." I felt his strong and powerful heartbeat, and like a survivor of a catastrophe, I burst into tears. "Your heart disease is cured." "Yes, it's cured." He kissed my forehead and said softly, "This time, no one will separate us." The breeze blew, bringing the scent of flowers. I fell into Brock's warm embrace like a survivor of a catastrophe. The city, which was cold and desolate when I left, was now in full bloom. This is the 3rd year of my marriage with Brock. On the day of Sadie's baby's full-month celebration, Brock dragged me out of bed early in the morning. Sitting in the car, I rested my head on his shoulder and complained softly. "I told you I have something to do today, yet you still kept me up so late last night." Brock laughed. "It's not like it's the first time you've craved me. They say brief separations rekindle the newlywed feeling. Not long ago, I was busy organizing a tech exhibition for a client and went to Bee City. Brock, on the other hand, went abroad for business negotiations. Yesterday at dawn, we both arrived home one after the other. We barely exchanged a few words before we ended up in bed together. So when my sleep-deprived self saw Travis at the entrance of the celebration banquet, I thought I was hallucinating. "David, I beg you, you can't treat me like this. You said we would be together forever." Travis was clutching a man's pant leg, pleading desperately. The man looked down coldly, mocking him. "Travis Reid, have you no shame? Do you have no dignity?" "I don't want dignity." Travis's eyes were filled with terror. "As long as you love me, I just want you to love me." The man watched his reaction with interest. "All right, strip naked and crawl outside. If you make me happy, I'll love you." "What are you looking at?" Brock came up from behind and wrapped his arm around my waist. I pointed to Travis not far away. "Why is he here too?" Brock raised an eyebrow slightly, sounding a bit surprised. "Yeah, why is he here too?" Brock never told me how he came to this world. I guess it was a system malfunction. Travis must have accidentally been brought over. I wanted to say more, but Brock pulled me into the venue. I turned my head to look at the frenziedly undressing Travis, feeling that this scene seemed familiar. Travis had tortured me like this before. Perhaps this is karma. Sadie's baby's full-month celebration was grand. I quickly put this little episode behind me. When we got home that night, I had a little to drink. Brock carried me through the door. I was happy inside, mumbling, "Brock, is the baby cute?" Brock was pressed under me on the sofa, his tie half torn, his eyes tender and alluring. "Do you want to have a baby with me?" I cheered, "Yes." Brock held my waist and pinched my mouth, stifling my cheer. "You're so naive. Be careful, I might trick you till you have nothing left." I struggled free, shouting, "Oh, you're so smart. How capable are you? Can you trick me?" Brock leaned his head back, a mischievous smile on his lips. "I can't trick you." "Then why are you unbuttoning my shirt?" I struggled out of his enchantment, embarrassed and angry. "You don't want me to?" "I do." Brock settled into a comfortable position. "Come on, feel free to ravage me tonight." I admit Brock is cunning. Whatever he sets his mind to, he achieves. Yet his words are always gentle, coaxing me into a daze. Until finally, Brock praised me for being amazing. He said I almost conquered him. I was satisfied and ready to pass out. Suddenly, Brock slowly tied my hands, got up from underneath, and hovered over me. The flattery game is over. Are you satisfied with my service? I was drowsy and surprised. Satisfied, I guess? What are you doing? Originally sleepy, Brock tore off his mask, straightened up, revealing a lingering smile. Now, the devouring game officially begins. It was late at night, and the air conditioning was set a bit too low. Millie turned over and curled up under the blanket. Her sleeping posture was cautious and awkward. It was clear she had been bullied by some cunning man for a long time. Brock, wearing a bathrobe, sat loosely on the sofa beside her. He silently watched her. In his mind, a familiar voice was cautiously reporting news. Master, Travis Reid's health is failing. Should we increase the difficulty of the mission? If Millie could hear the system's voice at this moment, she would immediately recognize it as the voice of the system that had been with her for 2 years. It actually had a name. It was called number 077. Brock made a sound of acknowledgement. As long as he's alive, continue. Number 077 hesitated. Master, should we eliminate number 001? Number 001 was the system initially bound to Brock. Since Brock's birth, it had been brainwashing him, telling him to accept his fate and not to resist. Brock pondered for a long time and said, continue to imprison it. Number 077 nodded, reluctantly glancing at the still sleeping Millie. No one knew what happened 3 years ago in the system world when Millie left the world. That night, Brock, a supposed-to-be offline NPC, suddenly joined forces with number 077 to launch a coup. The world Brock was in completely collapsed. The system world underwent a terrifying purge and extermination. That day, the judge was furious. He ordered the entire system to eliminate Brock. But the judge didn't know that Brock had prepared for this day for 24 years. Number 077 still remembered that day as the most thrilling and terrifying day since it started working. Due to a heart attack, Brock, who had left his body, followed the network provided by number 077 and appeared in front of the judge. Like a demon crawling out of hell. He stepped on the judge's head and smiled gently. You like controlling my life so much, huh? Leaving me without parents, without feelings, even being abandoned by my lover, dying young. Do you think it's fun? But what can I do? I don't want to accept this kind of life at all. How about you go to hell instead? Brock was indeed a madman. Ignoring the judge's pleas, he cruelly smashed its head bit by bit. After that day, number 077 became the new judge. Brock became the one in charge of the judge. From then on, the perverse mission tasks were completely terminated in all worlds. Seeing that number 077 hadn't left yet, Brock lifted his eyelids. Anything else? Number 077 mustered up the courage to ask. Master, your initial plan didn't include Millie Hall, did it? If Brock's ultimate goal was to kill the judge and destroy the mission world, then the heart attack on the wedding day was entirely designed by Brock. Only by using the system rules to kill himself could he infiltrate the system world, find the judge, and complete the assassination. But Millie still thought Brock's heart attack was because she was about to leave. If Millie hadn't been lucky and forcibly sent out of that world, she would probably be dead by now. Number 077 suddenly felt unfair for Millie. Her remaining life would be manipulated by such a scheming man. Brock squinted his eyes and laughed. Are you accusing me of deceiving her? Number 077 said, yes. Brock said nothing, looking at the person on the bed, and snorted. Deceiving her means she'll remember me until she dies. Why wouldn't I do it? From the first time Millie threw herself into his arms, the wheels of fate began to turn. His plan also began. First, he turned number 077, who was attached to Millie, while controlling his feelings for Millie, letting them grow slowly, making the judge gradually lower his guard. At the moment the mission was completed, using the system rules to kill himself, entering the system world, and completing the assassination. From beginning to end, Millie's storyline was just a tool he used. Number 077, now the judge, left in tears, feeling utterly defeated. Millie turned over again, mumbling and calling out. Brock, cold. Brock got up, walked over, and held her tightly. Not cold anymore, sleep. Brock looked at the deep night and recalled the night before the wedding when number 001 knelt in front of him, begging frantically. Brock, don't go mad. Forcibly sending the mission completer away will get both of us killed. If she wants to stay for you, let her stay. After all, it's part of your plan, just use her, right? If you forcibly send her away, the system will collapse, and you and I will both die. You don't need to take that risk, do you? You're about to succeed. Isn't this what you've always dreamed of? Forcibly sending Millie away had to happen simultaneously with Brock's death. If there was any problem, the system would collapse, and Brock would be completely annihilated. He would never return. He had always been scheming and selfish, never taking such risks. His only goal was to kill the judge and gain freedom. But he did it. He forced number 001 to erase Millie's choice button. At the moment he held Millie on the stage, Brock was very clear. His life had encountered an accident. If he succeeded, he would go to Millie's world and cling to her for life. If he failed, Millie would never forget him for the rest of her life. Either way, he wouldn't lose. Millie slept restlessly tonight, waking up groggily in the second half of the night. Seeing Brock staring at her, she mumbled and asked him, "What are you looking at?" Brock propped his head up, looking at an accident. Accident? Millie didn't understand, laughing and mumbling a few words, crazy. Brock slowly grasped Millie's neck, his rough fingertips brushing her delicate skin. Actually, at that time, with just a little force, Millie would have completely disappeared from that world. Why didn't he do it? Brock couldn't remember. Maybe it was seeing her standing in the crowd crying, even if it meant exhausting her survival time. She wanted those who bullied her to pay the price. She had also been driven mad by the system, so she should understand him, right? From that day on, Brock began to deliberately open up his heart, showing her a little bit of his secrets. Just a little was enough. Half truth, half lies. Like a patient hunter, step by step leading his prey into his trap. Even Millie falling in love with him was calculated. "Brock, do you love me?" Millie seemed to be talking nonsense in her sleep, clinging to him and babbling. Brock looked down at her face. From the moment he was born, he was not allowed to have feelings. So, he didn't know what love was. Brock thought for a moment and said, "I want to possess you." "Millie, is possession love?" Millie was once again confused by his charm, her lips moving closer. "Come here, I'll tell you." Brock bent down and covered her lips with his, turning his low whispers into a dense kiss. Brock's heartbeat quickened. His heart felt warm, as if something was flowing out, making him give up slaughter, surrender to tenderness. Brock understood that he was a madman living in the dark. Once he caught the light, he would never let go for the rest of his life.